The transport ship broke through the atmosphere of the orbital station, and Kiwan pressed his face against the small window. He had dreamed of this moment his entire life. The station, called Nexus Prime, stretched out before him like a small city floating in space. Lights blinked across its surface, and ships from dozens of worlds docked at its many ports. "Can you believe we're actually here?" Hannah whispered from the seat beside him. Her eyes were wide with excitement. Taeho leaned over from across the aisle. "First humans ever accepted into the Galactic Coalition military program. We're making history." Kiwan nodded but said nothing. The weight of that responsibility sat heavy on his shoulders. Earth had fought for years to be taken seriously by the Coalition. Most alien species saw humans as newcomers, primitives who had barely left their own solar system. This training program was humanity's chance to prove they belonged among the stars. The ship docked with a metallic clang. The doors opened, and Kiwan took his first breath of recycled station air. It tasted strange, processed through filters designed for 100 different species. The corridor beyond was massive, built to accommodate beings of all sizes. A group of insectoid aliens skittered past, their chittering voices echoing off the walls. Further down, a being made of what looked like living crystal floated by, humming with inner light. "Recruits from Earth, follow me." A mechanical voice came from a hovering drone. The three humans grabbed their bags and followed the device through winding corridors. Everywhere Kiwan looked, he saw aliens. Some walked on two legs like humans. Others had 4, 6, or more. Some didn't walk at all but floated or slithered. Each one turned to stare at the humans as they passed. The drone led them to a large hall where hundreds of recruits gathered. The noise was incredible. Dozens of different languages mixed together in a wall of sound. Kiwan spotted beings twice his height and others barely reaching his knee. All of them looked stronger, tougher, more dangerous than any human. "Attention!" A voice boomed across the hall, and instant silence fell. Kiwan turned to see the source of that command. The creature that entered the hall made Kiwan's blood run cold. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, moving on 2 powerful legs. Its body was covered in scales that looked harder than steel, colored deep green and black. Yellow eyes swept across the gathered recruits with the cold assessment of a predator. When it opened its mouth to speak, rows of sharp teeth glinted in the light. "I am Instructor Vexter of the Dravix warrior caste," the creature announced. "I have trained soldiers for 60 standard years. I have fought in 12 planetary campaigns. Under my instruction, you will learn if you have what it takes to serve in the Coalition military." Vexter began walking through the crowd, examining each recruit. He stopped in front of a massive gray-skinned alien that looked like living rock. Gornoth. Good bone density. Natural armor. He moved to an insect-like being with blade-sharp forearms. Sectarian. Excellent natural weapons. Fast reflexes. Then Vexter reached the 3 humans. He stopped and stared down at them. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his mouth curved into something that might have been a smile, showing all those terrible teeth. "Humans," he said, and somehow made the words sound like an insult. "From Earth, gravity of only 1G, no natural armor. No natural weapons. Soft skin that tears easily. Fragile bones." He leaned closer, and Kiwan could smell something like sulfur on his breath. "Tell me, small ones, what makes you think you belong here?" Kiwan met those yellow eyes and refused to look away. "We passed the same entrance tests as everyone else, sir." Vexter laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "Tests designed for the average species. Let me educate you about reality. Your planet is classified as a 1G world. Comfortable. Easy. Most of us here come from worlds with 2, 3, even 4 times that gravity. Your muscles are weak by comparison. Your bones are hollow and light. You have no claws, no scales, no venom, no natural defenses at all. He straightened up and addressed the entire hall. Humans are the weakest species ever admitted to this program. They are here because of politics, not capability. I will train them because I must, but I hold no hope for their success. The hall erupted in sounds that Kiwan assumed were laughter from a dozen different species. The Gornath made a deep rumbling sound. The sectarian clicked its mandibles rapidly. Even the crystal being seemed to chime with amusement. Hana's fists clenched at her sides, but she said nothing. Taiho's jaw tightened. Kiwan kept his face blank and his eyes forward. You will be assigned to Combat Training Division 7, Vexter continued. Training begins at dawn cycle tomorrow. Dismissed. The crowd dispersed, aliens heading off in different directions. The three humans stood still for a moment. That went well, Taiho muttered. He's wrong, Hana said quietly but firmly. He's wrong about us. Then we'll prove it, Kiwan said. We'll show them what humans can do. They found their assigned quarters, small rooms designed for humanoid species. The beds were too hard, built for beings with natural armor. The temperature controls were set for cold-blooded species. But they were here, and that was what mattered. That night, Kiwan couldn't sleep. He lay on the hard bed and thought about Vexter's words. Weak, soft, fragile. Those words had followed humanity since first contact. The other species of the galaxy looked at humans and saw prey animals. They saw a species that had barely survived on their own planet, that needed tools and technology to compete with natural predators. What they didn't see was that humans had survived. On a planet full of predators, diseases, natural disasters, and countless other dangers, humanity had not just survived, but thrived. They didn't have claws, so they made weapons. They didn't have armor, so they made shields. They didn't have the strength of other species, so they learned to work together. But Kiwan knew that words wouldn't convince Vexter or any of the other aliens. Only actions would matter. Only results that the next morning came too early. A harsh alarm filled the station, and recruits poured into the training halls. Division 7 gathered in a large room with padded floors and various pieces of equipment around the edges. Vexter stood at the center, waiting. Combat training begins with understanding your body, he announced. Each species has different strengths and weaknesses. Today, you will learn yours. He began demonstrating fighting stances, movements designed for beings with tails, multiple limbs, or body types nothing like human. Kiwan and the other humans did their best to adapt the techniques to their own bodies. Pathetic, Vexter said, watching Hana struggle with a stance designed for four-legged creatures. Humans lack the flexibility. Useless, he commented when Taiho couldn't execute a spinning strike meant for beings with tails for balance. Kiwan said nothing and kept training. Around them, the other recruits whispered and laughed. The humans had become the joke of Division 7, but Kiwan noticed something that the others didn't. While the alien recruits laughed, the humans kept working. While others took breaks, the humans practiced. While others complained about the difficulty, the humans simply tried again. By the end of that first day, every part of Kiwan's body hurt. His muscles screamed. His joints ached. But he had survived the first day. They all had. Tomorrow will be harder, Vexter promised as they left. Most weak species quit by the end of the first week. We shall see how long the humans last. Kiwan looked at Hana and Taiho. They were exhausted, bruised, but their eyes burned with determination. They hadn't traveled across the galaxy to quit after one day. The real challenge was just beginning. The weeks that followed were the hardest of Kiwan's life. Every morning began the same way. The alarm would sound before dawn cycle. The recruits would gather in the training hall. and Vexter would find new ways to make the humans fail. On the second week, he assigned them to carry equipment designed for Gornath recruits. The weights were meant for beings with natural stone-like bodies and muscles developed in 3 times Earth's gravity. Hannah struggled under a load that should have been impossible for her size. She fell twice. Each time, she got back up and kept moving. "Look at the weak human," Krell the sectarian clicked to his friends. "She can barely lift what a child of my species carries." Vexter watched with those cold yellow eyes, but said nothing. He didn't need to. His silence was approval enough for the mockery. The third week brought sparring practice. Vexter paired the humans against the largest, strongest recruits in the division. Taiho found himself facing a Gornath named Throck, who stood 7 feet tall and weighed at least 400 pounds. The match lasted less than 10 seconds. Throck grabbed Taiho with one massive hand and threw him across the mat. Taiho hit the padding hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs. Again, Vexter commanded. Taiho stood up, breathing hard, and returned to the center of the mat. Throck threw him again, and again, and again. By the end of the session, Taiho could barely stand. His body was covered in bruises that would take days to heal. "Humans break too easily," Vexter observed. "Perhaps you should request transfer to the diplomatic corps. Combat is clearly beyond your capabilities." But Taiho didn't transfer. None of them did. Kiwan's turn came during the 4th week. Vexter paired him against a multi-limbed sectarian named Draxus. The insectoid being had 6 arms, each one tipped with a sharp claw. In the first exchange, Draxus struck Kiwan 4 times before he could even raise his guard. The claws were covered with safety padding, but the impact still hurt. "Faster, human," Vexter called out. "Or do your species simply lack the neural speed to compete?" Kiwan focused and tried again. This time, he managed to block 2 strikes before the other 4 got through. It wasn't much, but it was improvement. Draxus clicked its mandibles in what might have been respect, but the other recruits only laughed harder. The humans became known throughout the station as the weakest recruits in Division 7's history. When they walked through the corridors, other species would step aside with exaggerated caution, as if afraid the fragile humans might break if bumped. In the dining hall, aliens would make jokes about human weakness loud enough for them to hear. "I heard one of the humans got bruised by a training dummy," one alien laughed. "No surprise. They bruise if you look at them too hard." Another responded. Hannah stopped eating in the common dining hall after that. She took her meals alone in her quarters. Kiwan found her there one evening, staring at her food without eating. "We can't let them win," he said quietly. "They already have," Hannah replied. "Look at us. Look at us. We're the joke of the entire station. Maybe Vexter is right. Maybe we don't belong here. No." Kiwan sat down across from her. "They're judging us by their standards. They see we don't have scales or claws and assume we're weak. But we're not. We're just different. Different doesn't help when a Gornath can throw you across the room like a toy. Then we get better. We adapt. That's what humans do. That's what we've always done." Hannah looked at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're right. I'm tired of being the victim. Tomorrow, I fight back." The next day brought the strength testing. Vexter had set up a force measurement column in the center of the training hall. It was a tall cylinder designed to measure the power of a strike. Each recruit would hit it, and the machine would display the force generated. "This test will demonstrate the objective differences between species," Vexter announced. "Strength is not subjective. It can be measured, recorded, proven." He called recruits up one by one. Throck the Gornath went first. The massive being drew back one stone-like fist and slammed it into the column. The impact echoed through the hall. The display lit up with numbers. 2,400 units. Vexter read aloud. Excellent. As expected from a high-gravity species. Draxus the Sectarian struck with multiple limbs in rapid succession. The display showed 1,900 units for the strongest hit. Krell managed 2,100. A floating luminae being used some kind of energy projection and achieved 1,600. Each species demonstrated their natural strength. Each measurement reinforced what everyone already believed about the hierarchy of power in the galaxy. Then Vexter called Hana forward. She walked to the column with her head high. Every eye in the room was on her. Kiwan could hear aliens placing bets on how low her score would be. Some guessed 500 units. Others said maybe 800 at most. Hana took a stance, drew back her fist, and struck. The sound of the impact was different from the others. Sharper, more focused. The display flickered and showed a number. 3,200 units, the automated voice announced. The hall went silent. Several aliens looked at each other in confusion. Throx stared at Hana with what might have been respect. Vexter's scales rippled. Equipment malfunction. Clearly, the sensors are miscalibrated. He turned to one of his assistants. Run a diagnostic. The assistant checked the machine and shook its head. All systems functioning normally, Instructor. Test it again, Vexter ordered. They ran multiple diagnostics. The machine worked perfectly. Vexter's expression darkened, but he said nothing more about it. He called Taiho next. Taiho hit the column and scored 2,900 units. The aliens stopped laughing. They started whispering instead, confused conversations about how the soft-skinned humans were generating so much force. Then it was Kiwan's turn. He approached the column and took a moment to center himself. He thought about every time Vexter had called them weak. Every time another recruit had mocked them. Every bruise, every failure, every humiliation. He channeled all of that into one strike. His fist connected with the column. The impact resonated through his entire arm. The display flickered, numbers scrolling rapidly upward. 3,800 units, the machine announced. The highest score so far. Higher than the Gornath with their stone bodies. Higher than the Sectarians with their blade-like limbs. A human, supposedly the weakest species in the program, had just scored the highest on the strength test. Vexter stared at the display like it had personally insulted him. His tail lashed back and forth, a sign of agitation in his species. Finally, he spoke. Power without technique is meaningless, he said. The humans may generate force through some quirk of their physiology, but they still lack the skill to apply it in real combat. They still lack the durability to survive a real fight. Raw numbers mean nothing on the battlefield. But T1 noticed something different in the instructor's eyes. It wasn't respect, not yet. But it wasn't complete dismissal either. It was the first crack in Vexter's certainty. The other recruits looked at the humans differently after that day. The mockery didn't stop, but it became more uncertain. Throck nodded to Kiwan in the corridor that evening. Draxus actually asked Taiho about human striking techniques during a training session. That night, the three humans gathered in Kiwan's quarters. We surprised them today, Hana said. But one good test doesn't change everything. It's a start, Taiho replied. They can't ignore us anymore. We proved we have strength. Kiwan nodded but remained quiet. He knew Taiho was right. They had proven something today. But Vexter's words echoed in his mind. Power without technique is meaningless. The instructor was looking for any excuse to dismiss them, to prove that humans didn't belong. One good score on a strength test wouldn't be enough. They needed to prove themselves completely, beyond any doubt. Kiwan didn't know it yet, but his chance to do exactly that was coming very soon. 3 months into the training program, something shifted in Vexter's approach. The strength test results had bothered him more than he admitted. The humans continued to perform better than expected in many physical challenges. They healed faster than predicted. They endured longer training sessions without complaint. Every assumption Vexter had made about human weakness was being slowly challenged, and he didn't like it. The instructor became harsher with the humans specifically. When Taiho executed a combat technique correctly, Vexter would find some minor flaw to criticize. When Kiwan completed an obstacle course in good time, Vexter would claim the course was too easy and make him run it again with added weights. When Hana demonstrated improved sparring skills, Vexter would pair her against opponents 2 weight classes above her. "You want to prove you belong here?" Vexter would say. "Then exceed the standards, not just meet them." Humans must work twice as hard to achieve half as much. The other recruits noticed the unfair treatment but said nothing. Some felt uncomfortable watching it. Others enjoyed seeing the humans struggle. Throck, the Gornath, who had fought Taiho, approached Kiwan one day after training. "Your instructor is harsh," Throck rumbled in his deep voice. "He has high standards," Kiwan replied carefully. "No, he is unfair. I have seen many instructors. Vexter is harsh with all recruits, yes. But with you humans, he is cruel. There is a difference." Kiwan said nothing. What could he say? Complaining would only prove Vexter right. That humans were too weak for this program. The breaking point came during an advanced combat demonstration. Vexter was teaching a defensive technique meant for high-speed attacks. He needed a volunteer to demonstrate against. Human female. "Hana, come forward," he commanded. Hana walked to the center of the mat. The other recruits formed a circle around them. Kiwan felt uneasy, but didn't know why. This was just a demonstration. Instructors did them all the time. "I will strike at combat speed," Vexter explained to the class. The defender must read the attack, predict its path, and execute the proper counter. This technique is essential for survival against faster opponents. He looked down at Hana. "Ready?" Hana nodded and took a defensive stance. Vexter moved. His clawed hand shot forward in a strike that would have been perfect for the demonstration. Hana began the counter technique, moving to redirect the blow as taught. But then something happened. Vexter's strike changed direction mid-attack. Instead of the controlled demonstration blow, he struck with full force directly at Hana's blocking arm. The crack echoed through the training hall. Hana cried out and fell to the mat, clutching her arm. It bent at an angle that arm should not bend. Her face went white with pain. "Oops," Vexter said, his voice cold. The human failed to execute the counter correctly. Perhaps if your species had proper bone density, such mistakes wouldn't result in injury. Kiwan was moving before he realized it. He rushed to Hana's side. Taiho was right behind him. Other recruits stood frozen, shocked by what they had witnessed. "That wasn't a mistake," Taiho said loudly. "You changed the attack." Vexter turned those yellow eyes on him. "Are you questioning my instruction, recruit?" "I'm stating what everyone here saw." "What I saw," Vexter said slowly, "was a weak human failing to defend against a standard attack. Perhaps humans should reconsider their participation in combat training. The diplomatic corps is always looking for staff. Work that doesn't risk injury to such fragile beings." Kiwan helped Hana to her feet. Her arm hung uselessly at her side, clearly broken. Medical personnel were already being called. The pain in her eyes was mixed with something worse than physical hurt. It was humiliation, defeat. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Kiwan. "I should have been faster." "This wasn't your fault," Kiwan said. He helped her to the medical station, where alien doctors examined her arm. They confirmed it was broken in 2 places. They would need to use the regeneration technology to heal it, which would take several days. Hana would miss a week of training. "It's over," she said, as they wrapped her arm in a regeneration cast. He won. He found a way to get rid of us. If one demonstration can break me this badly, how can I convince anyone I'm strong enough for real combat? You are strong enough, Kiwan said. This wasn't about strength. This was about him being afraid. Afraid? Of what? Of being wrong. Of everything he believes being challenged. Of the humans he dismissed proving him wrong. Kiwan returned to the training hall. The session had ended, but Vexter remained, reviewing data on a display. The other recruits had left, probably discussing what they had witnessed. Kiwan walked straight up to the instructor. I challenge you, Kiwan said. Vexter slowly turned. What did you say? I challenge you to single combat. It's my right under coalition military tradition. Any recruit may challenge any instructor to settle a dispute. The instructor's eyes narrowed. You think you have a dispute with me? You deliberately injured my fellow recruit. You have treated all humans with prejudice and cruelty. You have violated the principles of fair training. So yes, we have a dispute. Vexter stepped closer. He towered over Kiwan, scales gleaming in the light. Let me explain something to you, little human. I have trained for 60 of your Earth years. I have fought in 12 planetary campaigns. I have killed enemies in hand-to-hand combat that would haunt your nightmares. You have been here 3 months. Do you truly think you can challenge me? Yes, Kiwan said simply. Why? Pride? Anger? Revenge for your broken friend? All of those. And to prove something. Prove what? That you're wrong about humans. That we belong here. That strength isn't just about scales and claws and natural weapons. That maybe, just maybe, you're not the best judge of who is weak and who is strong. For a long moment, Vexter said nothing. Then he laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Very well. I accept your challenge. Tomorrow. Combat Ring 7. Standard coalition rules. First to submit or lose consciousness loses. He leaned closer. I will try not to break too many of your bones. Earth needs its representatives, however pathetic they may be. Kiwan didn't flinch. Tomorrow then. He turned and walked away, feeling Vexter's eyes on his back the entire way. The news spread through the station like wildfire. A human was challenging Instructor Vexter. A recruit with 3 months of training was challenging a legendary warrior. The betting pool started immediately. No one gave Kiwan any chance of winning. The only bets were about how long he would last and how badly he would be injured. Taiho found Kiwan in his quarters that evening. You know this is crazy, right? Probably. He's going to destroy you. He has decades of experience. He's bigger, stronger, faster. Maybe. Then why do this? Kiwan looked at his friend. Because someone has to. Because if we let him break us without fighting back, we prove everything he believes about humans. Because Hannah is sitting in medical with a broken arm, and she thinks it's her fault. Because I'm tired of being treated like we don't belong here. Taiho sat down heavily. Well, when you put it that way, how can I argue? But Kiwan, seriously, what's your plan? You can't just walk in there and hope for the best. I won't, Kiwan said. He pulled up a data file on his screen. I've been watching recordings of Vexter and combat demonstrations. He's good, no question. But he has patterns, habits. He relies on his strength and reach. He expects opponents to back away from his aggression. So I won't back away. And I have something he doesn't expect. What's that? Kiwan smiled. Everything he thinks he knows about humans is wrong. He thinks we're weak, fragile, slow. He has no idea what a human from Earth can actually do when pushed to the limit. Late that night, Hannah left the medical station against the doctor's advice and found Kiwan. Her arm was still in the regeneration cast. But she looked determined. I heard what you did, she said. I had to. I know. And I'm grateful. But Kiwan, be careful. Don't let pride get you killed. If it gets too bad, submit. Live to fight another day. Kiwan nodded. I'll be careful. Promise me something. Win or lose, show them what a human can do. Show them we don't break easily. Show them we belong here. I promise. She hugged him with her good arm and left. Kiwan sat alone in his quarters, thinking about the next day. He wasn't naive. Vexter was dangerous and experienced. The chances of winning were very small, but humans had always been good at beating the odds. It was kind of their specialty. Tomorrow, the galaxy would see what a human could do. Combat Ring 7 was designed for official matches and important demonstrations. It sat in the center of a large amphitheater where hundreds of recruits could watch. When Kiwan arrived, the seats were already full. Word had spread beyond Division 7. Recruits from other divisions had come. Even some instructors and senior officers were present. Everyone wanted to see the human get destroyed. Kiwan walked into the ring wearing standard training gear. No armor, no weapons. Just him, the crowd murmured. Some aliens made sounds that might have been laughter or pity. He ignored them all and focused on his breathing. In, out, calm, focused. Across the ring, Vexter entered. The instructor wore minimal armor, just protection over vital areas. He didn't need more. His scales were armor enough. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight like this. The referee, a neutral species with multiple eyes, floated to the center of the ring. This is an official challenge match under coalition military tradition. Standard combat rules apply. First to submit or lose consciousness loses. Killing blows are forbidden. Medical teams are standing by. Do both participants understand? Yes, Vexter said. Yes, Kiwan replied. Then take your positions. They moved to opposite sides of the ring. Kiwan could see Hana and Taiho in the front row, both looking worried. Throck sat nearby, his stone face unreadable. Dozens of other aliens watched with clear anticipation. The referee raised one appendage. Begin. Vexter didn't rush forward immediately. He circled Kiwan slowly, like a predator studying prey. His yellow eyes tracked every movement. His tail swayed behind him for balance. Last chance to submit, human, Vexter said. I respect that you had the courage to challenge me. Don't throw away your life for pride. I'm not the one who should be worried, Kiwan replied. That got a reaction. Vexter's eyes narrowed. Very well. Let's see how long you last. He lunged. Fast. Faster than Kiwan had expected even after watching all those recordings. The clawed hand slashed toward Kiwan's face with the speed of a striking snake. But Kiwan moved faster. He sidestepped, and the claws cut through empty air where his head had been a moment before. The crowd gasped. Vexter recovered quickly and struck again, this time with his other hand. Kiwan ducked under it. A third strike came at his midsection. Kiwan twisted away. The claws missed by inches. Vexter backed up slightly, reassessing. You're faster than expected. Good. This might be interesting after all. He attacked again, this time with a combination. Right claw high, left claw low, tail sweeping for Kiwan's legs. It was a technique designed to overwhelm an opponent with multiple threats. Kiwan jumped over the tail sweep, blocked the low strike, and rolled away from the high one. He came up in a defensive stance, breathing hard but unhurt. The crowd was no longer laughing. Aliens leaned forward in their seats. This wasn't going how they expected. You can dodge, Vexter acknowledged. But dodging isn't winning. Eventually, you'll tire. Eventually, you'll make a mistake. And then this ends. He was right, Kiwan knew. He couldn't just dodge forever. But he had watched how Vexter fought. The instructor relied on his reach and power. He expected opponents to give ground when pressed. Every recording showed the same pattern, so Kiwan did the opposite. When Vexter attacked again, Kiwan didn't back away. He moved forward, inside the range of those long arms. Vexter tried to grab him, but Kiwan was already moving, striking at the instructor's midsection. His fist connected with scaled hide. It was like punching a wall, but Vexter grunted. First blood to the human. Vexter's tail whipped around faster than before, catching Kiwan in the side and sending him rolling across the mat. The impact drove the air from his lungs. He tasted blood in his mouth. Good hit, Vexter said, but not good enough. Kiwan stood up, ignoring the pain in his ribs. His side would bruise badly, but nothing felt broken. He had known taking hits was inevitable. The question was whether he could give as good as he got. They circled each other again. This time, both of them were more cautious. Vexter had learned that Kiwan was faster than expected. Kiwan had learned that getting hit by that tail was to be avoided. You surprise me, human, Vexter admitted. Perhaps there is more to your species than I believed. But this changes nothing. You cannot win. Why? Because I don't have scales? Because I don't have claws? Because I have fought in real battles. I have felt the fear of true combat. You are a recruit playing at being a warrior. Then teach me what real combat feels like, Kiwan said. Vexter roared and charged. This time there was no careful technique, no measured approach. He came at Kiwan with pure aggression, claws slashing in a blur of movement. This was the warrior who had survived 12 planetary campaigns. This was the Dravix at full power. Kiwan couldn't dodge everything. A claw caught his shoulder, cutting through his training gear and drawing blood. Another scraped across his ribs. He blocked what he could, dodged what he couldn't, and took the rest. But he didn't go down. And every time Vexter's attack created an opening, Kiwan struck back. A punch to the instructor's side. A strike to his leg. None of them seemed to do much damage against those scales, but they added up. Minutes passed. Both fighters were breathing heavily now. Vexter's attacks remained powerful, but came slightly slower. Kiwan's body was covered in cuts and bruises, but he stayed on his feet. The crowd had gone completely silent. This wasn't supposed to happen. The human was supposed to go down in seconds. Instead, they were watching an actual fight. Why won't you fall? Vexter demanded. Any other species would be finished by now. Because I'm human, Kiwan said. We don't fall easily. And then he saw it. The opening he had been waiting for. Vexter was tired. His guard was lower than it should be. His weight was on his back foot. For just a moment, he was vulnerable. Kiwon thought about everything that had led to this moment. Every insult. Every mockery. Every time Vexter had dismissed humans as weak. Every bruised Taiho had suffered. Hannah's broken arm. The way the instructor's eyes had said, "You don't belong here," from the very first day. But more than that, Kiwan thought about what humans really were. Not the weak species everyone believed. Not fragile or soft. Humans were survivors. They came from a planet so dangerous that simply living to adulthood was an achievement. They had hunted predators bigger and stronger than themselves. They had survived ice ages and plagues and disasters. That would have destroyed other species. Humans were born to overcome. Impossible odds, and Kiwan was going to prove it. He moved with every bit of speed his human body could generate. All the strength that came from evolving under Earth's gravity. All the power that came from oxygen-rich blood pumping through efficient muscles. All the rage and determination of 3 months watching his species be dismissed. One punch. Perfect technique. Perfect placement. Perfect timing. His fist connected with Vexter's jaw with a sound like a gunshot. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Vexter's eyes went wide. His mouth opened in shock. Then his yellow eyes rolled back, and his massive body went rigid. The instructor fell. He toppled backward like a cut tree, his tail and arms limp. He hit the mat with a crash that shook the entire ring, and he didn't get up. The medical sensors activated immediately, confirming Vexter was unconscious but alive. The automated referee's voice cut through the stunned silence. Combat concluded. Vexter unable to continue. Victor, recruit Kiwan. The amphitheater exploded into noise. Aliens shouted in their various languages. Some cheered. Some protested. Medical teams rushed into the ring. Kiwan stood over Vexter's fallen body, his chest heaving, blood running from a dozen cuts. His knuckles were swollen from that last punch. Every part of his body hurt, but he had won. The human had won. The medical teams reached Vexter first. They checked his vital signs, confirmed he was breathing, and carefully lifted his massive body onto a hover stretcher. The instructor's eyes flickered open briefly, confusion clear in his expression. Then they closed again as the doctors transported him away. Kiwan stood in the center of the ring, unable to quite process what had just happened. His body was starting to register all the pain he had been ignoring during the fight. Every breath hurt. His shoulder burned where Vexter's claws had cut him. His ribs ached from the tail strike. But he had won. Hana and Taiho rushed into the ring, both of them talking at once. That was incredible. I can't believe you actually did it. The way you moved at the end, where did that come from? Kiwan tried to answer, but found his legs suddenly weak. Taiho caught him before he fell. Medical personnel approached to treat his injuries, scanning his body for serious damage. Multiple lacerations, one of the doctors said in the universal language. Bruised ribs, strained muscles throughout, but nothing permanently damaged. You humans heal quickly, yes? We do our best, Kiwan managed to say as they worked on his injuries. Kiwan became aware of the crowd still gathered in the amphitheater. Most aliens stood silent, still processing what they had witnessed. But some had begun to speak among themselves, and their tone had changed. Did you see that speed? The human took multiple hits from a Dravix warrior and stayed conscious. That last strike, I've never seen anything move that fast. Thrak, the Gornath who had befriended them, pushed through the crowd. The massive stone-like being looked down at Kiwan with something like respect in his small eyes. You surprised everyone today, small one, Thrak rumbled. Including me. I thought Vexter would break you in seconds. Instead, you broke him. I just got lucky, Kiwan said. No, luck does not win fights against warriors like Vexter. Skill wins. Determination wins. Heart wins. You have all three. Other recruits approached. Some congratulated him. Others asked questions about human fighting techniques. A few challenged him to future sparring matches, but their tone was respectful now, not mocking. The humans had proven they could compete. The station commander arrived an hour later. Commander Thalen was an old being whose species Kiwan didn't recognize. He moved slowly, supported by hover technology, but his eyes were sharp and missed nothing. He had been a warrior once, before age had caught up with him. Recruit Kiwan, Thalen said in a voice that commanded instant attention. I have reviewed the combat recordings. I have also reviewed the circumstances that led to this challenge. We need to speak. Kiwan's heart sank. He had won the fight, but had he violated some rule he didn't know about? Was he going to be punished? Thalen seemed to read his expression. Relax, young human. You are not in trouble. Quite the opposite. Please, come with me. They went to a private conference room. Hana and Taiho were invited as well. Thalan pulled up holographic footage of the fight, freezing it at key moments. "Tell me what you see here," Talon said, pointing to an image of Kiwan dodging Vexter's attack. "I see me trying not to get killed." "Sir," Kiwan replied honestly, "I see something more. I see a being moving with reaction speed that should not be possible for someone your size. I see muscle coordination that exceeds what our training programs predict. I see adaptability that most species take years to develop." Thalen pulled up more images. "Here, you take a blow that would render most species unconscious, yet you recover in seconds. Here, you generate striking force far beyond what your muscle mass should allow. And here, in the final moment, you move with speed and precision that I have rarely seen in my 60 years of military service." He turned to face all three humans. "For too long, we in the Coalition have made the mistake of judging species by their appearance. We see size and assume strength. We see natural weapons and assume combat ability. We see heavy worlds and assume superiority." Thalen pulled up data on his holographic display. "But strength comes in many forms. Your planet, Earth, is classified as a Class 9 death world. Do you know what that means?" The three humans shook their heads. "It means your planet is among the most dangerous habitable worlds in the known galaxy. The classification system measures environmental threats, predator density, disease prevalence, natural disasters, and dozens of other factors. Out of thousands of known worlds, only a handful rate as Class 9. The display showed images of Earth, hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, predators with claws and fangs, microscopic parasites, poisonous plants and animals. Most species come from worlds we classify as Class 3 or 4, Talon continued. Stable, safe, predictable. They evolved in environments that rarely threaten their existence. But humans? You evolved in constant danger. Every day of your species' existence has been a battle for survival." He zoomed in on human anatomy. "Your bones are not hollow, as Vexter believed. They are incredibly dense, designed to withstand impacts. Your muscles have a power-to-weight ratio that exceeds almost every species here. Your cardiovascular system is optimized for sustained activity that would exhaust others. Your healing abilities are remarkable. Your pain tolerance is exceptional." Thalen looked directly at Kiwan. "You didn't win today because you got lucky. You won because you are the product of millions of years of evolution on one of the deadliest planets in the galaxy. Every advantage you have, you earned through countless generations of survival." He turned off the hologram. "I am issuing new orders. All Coalition instructors will be required to attend sensitivity training regarding their assumptions about different species. Vexter, specifically, will be suspended from training duties pending a full review of his teaching methods." "Sir," Kiwan said carefully, "I don't want to end his career. I just wanted to prove humans weren't weak. And you succeeded." But Vexter's actions went beyond harsh training. He deliberately injured a recruit. That cannot be overlooked. However, I suspect this experience has already taught him more than any official punishment could. As if summoned by his name, the door opened and Vexter entered. The instructor moved slowly, one hand holding his jaw where Kiwan had struck him. Medical treatment had healed the damage, but the pride would take longer to recover. "Commander," Vexter said, "I request permission to speak with the humans." Thalen nodded. "Granted. I will leave you to talk privately." The commander left. Vexter stood before the three humans, and for a long moment, nobody spoke. Finally, the instructor lowered his head, a gesture of respect in his culture. "I was wrong," he said simply. "About humans. About strength. About what it means to be a warrior." He looked at Kiwan. "I have trained thousands of recruits. I have fought in wars across multiple star systems. I thought I understood combat. I thought I understood what made a strong species. But you taught me that I was blind to my own prejudices." Vexter placed his clawed hand over his chest, the Dradic's gesture of deep respect. "You did not just defeat me in combat. You showed me that power comes in forms I never considered. Your species may not have scales or claws or natural armor, but you have something more valuable. You have the spirit of survivors, the heart of warriors who earned their strength through adversity." "Sir, Kiwan began. "No," Vexter interrupted. "Let me finish. I owe you an apology. All of you. And I owe your species a debt. You came here to prove humans belonged in the Coalition military. I tried to stop you. Instead, you proved something far more important. You proved that we have been evaluating species incorrectly, that our standards were flawed. That strength cannot be measured simply by size or natural weapons." He looked at Hana. "And I owe you a specific apology for your injury. There is no excuse for what I did. If you wish to file formal charges, I will not contest them." Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and faced the towering instructor. "I appreciate the apology, but I don't want charges. I just want to finish my training and prove I belong here." "You already have," Vexter said. "All three of you have." In the days that followed, everything changed. The story of the human who knocked out a legendary Dravix instructor spread across the station and beyond. Earth received official notice that their recruits had not only completed the first phase of training but had exceeded expectations. Kiwan was offered an accelerated path to instructor certification after graduation. Hana and Taiho were recommended for elite combat units. More importantly, the Coalition opened the military program to a larger number of human recruits. Earth was no longer seen as a minor species with limited potential. Vexter returned to training duties after his suspension, but he was different. He pushed his recruits hard, but fairly. He challenged them, but without prejudice. And when new human recruits arrived, he gave them the same respect he gave everyone else. One day, a few weeks later, Kiwan found Vexter reviewing training footage alone. "Sir," Kiwan said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you regret accepting my challenge?" Vexter was quiet for a moment. "No, I needed to be humbled. I had become arrogant, certain that my experience and my species' reputation made me superior. You reminded me that every being, every species, has value. That combat is not just about physical advantages, but about spirit, determination, and the will to overcome obstacles.